Welcome to Sewing Out Loud, the official podcast of Zede Sewing Studio. Here are your hosts, Zede and Mallory.
Sewing Out Loud. All right, so let's kick things off talking about the edge joining presser foot, or what are other? It'll be called something different for every brand of machine.
I'm trying to think. Edge.
I have some ideas.
Yeah,
edge
the joining foot,
stitch in the ditch foot,
stitch in the ditch foot. What you need to know about the anatomy of this foot is it has a blade down the middle of it.
Right, and I'm going to interject here and say
it's not the
Blindhem foot. It is not the Blindhem foot,
and it won't work the same.
I'm just going to say one more time. It's not your Blindhem foot, and
it looks a little bit like it on some of the machines.
I've even
some of the machine company. It's very similar.
I heard somebody say this in our store. What they said was the Blindhem foot is really good for edge joining. No, it's not.
It's got a bump in it.
It's
for
not.
one thing.
Well, it's got.
Yep.
Anyway, we'll talk. So the anatomy of the foot, the blade down the middle. Like you said, but the blade is in the middle and it doesn't extend into the stitch area. The Blindhem foot, the blade extends into the stitch area. We wanted to do that.
And it has a hump in it.
Yep, and it has a hump, but it's got that blade in there because edge joining is done with a zigzag stitch.
That's right.
And you can obviously zigzag over a Blindhem, blade that goes through that stitch area, but it's not what it's meant for. And don't let anyone tell you that.
No.
And you just
you want to know
podcast,
something? This is an old lady story here.
I wanted you
Do
to
you
tell
know
this
story.
I think I know the story.
Okay.
Go ahead. Yes.
We used to sell a certain machine brand, and the very popular machine brand. They had like every foot in the world, and our tech used to take the Blindhem foot and basically cut away part of that blade that went down the middle, and we made our own edge stitching foot.
Yeah.
Yes, that fit that particular machine.
No, I remember this, and I remember that he would, smooth that blade
that's right.
afterwards.
He polished it.
Yeah.
He absolutely polished it.
Absolutely.
And, then that company found out we were doing that,
and now they're making $30 a pop.
That's right. Then they started, manufacturing that foot,
which is great.
That's right.
No,
right.
It's great, and
it became available to everybody.
Yeah, every brand has a foot like this, But that edge joining foot with that guide down the middle, but that does not extend into the stitch area of the foot, is so important. So the fact that blade doesn't extend into the stitch area means that you can do whatever you want in there. You can do any stitch.
Any kind of stitch you've decided to do.
Straight stitch, zigzag, straight stitch to the left, straight stitch a little to the left, straight stitch,
Hem stitching.
Decorative stitching. Anything
right.
you want to do that. So let's talk about traditional use for the edge joining foot. Edge joining.
My tradition or someone else's.
Right. So traditionally it'd be used to join together.
Right.
Two pieces of
fabric and or maybe it's you're joining two pieces of lace together.
Yes.
Your lace is only 1 inch wide and you want it 2 inch wide.
Yeah.
And then also to join that lace to the edge of the fabric.
Yes.
Right.
So you're putting two edges together, and how this works is you choose a zigzag stitch, or is this called an edge joining stitch where it gets like straight stitch and bites over
looks
to
like
the
a ladder
right?
that bites in each way.
That kind of ladder stitch. You use that, and you can butt those two things up together.
A lot of the stitches don't particularly have names, or sewing machine companies call them something different. So
sure.
That's why when you're blogging or something, you need to draw a picture
I'll draw a
the anatomy of
I'll make a note
the anatomy of the stitch, because they are called different things.
Okay, so we'll put that on there. But the point is, since you're edge joining, your fabrics or your laces or whatever, they don't overlap. They just butt up against one another.
That's right.
You're supposed to use that guide, to butt those two things up. Another thing that I love the word butt. The other thing I've butted together is anti-soft and stable.
Exactly.
Yeah. So felt or something like that,
or any stabilizer.
Yes.
I mean,
anything.
Batting.
Well, I want to point out with the anti-soft and stable, because I didn't just join two flat pieces. I
really?
joined curved pieces. I was making a
Yes.
bra cup. Okay.
right.
So I had the top of the cup and the bottom of the cup, both these
Right.
pattern pieces lay flat, but you can actually run that through your edge joining foot and then create that
Right.
3-dimensional,
Right.
project. But I'll do a separate little post on that. But I love that stuff. We talk about it all the time. I love Annie Soft and Stable. Maybe they'll sponsor the show. I don't know. Anyway, they don't have to. I'll talk about them anyway. So the edge joining foot can do that. But let's talk about things that we use the edge joining foot for that are not edge joining. Go. You wanna give one?
Well, when you're talking about stitching in the ditch,
Yeah.
You can put it in any seam and decide to stitch on one side of that seam for top stitching or the other side. Or here you could even use a double needle as a decorative. Stick it in the ditch and you'd be stitching down, each side.
Absolutely.
So it's basically a good landmark. And you know about me when I talk about landmark sewing.
Yep.
You don't watch your needle when you sew. You choose landmarks.
Or I say, what I've come to say to people is, don't watch your needle, watch your guide. So a
Right.
guide can be anything.
A guide
that
can
does
be
not
anything,
move,
right.
like a landmark. Yeah, something that
So
doesn't move.
it can be a seam guide. It can be the edge of a foot. It can be a mark on the foot. But if you watch that needle go up and down, your eyeballs are going up and down too.
Yep.
And that's when you don't get a smooth stitch.
Well, and your needle's moving. If you're watching
right.
it and you move your fabric, you're done. So you can put this guide, this middle edge guide, on a seam, or you can put it on the edge of a piece of fabric and move that needle over. People don't always understand why you want to move your needle over. This gets me. I've always been able to do it with our machines.
Right.
And people are like, wait, what? Why would you move your needle? And once again, I've been spoiled by my sewing upbringing, by my mom, which I'm very grateful for. But getting 2 parallel lines of stitching.
Right.
It's just so easy. Go down one line using the edge of your foot or using that edge stitch guide, put your needle all the way to the left, do it again, put your needle in the center or whatever.
I mean, when I make clothes I had 3 daughters and I was into using decorative stitches on my machine. And a lot of times, hemming around the little sleeves or something, you'd want to put a decorative stitch and I just slide that, the edge of, the hem is already in.
Right.
And now I am sliding it up next to the edge of that. That's my guide.
That
and
guide.
I'm doing a decorative stitch.
Well, and the other thing is when you do, so your guide is in the center. So when we slide the edge of our hem, the edge of our garment up to that guide, we're going to be stitching over to the side, right?
Right.
With our decorative stitch. And you do get more support from the throat plate over there.
Right.
You get support on 3 sides of the needle, and that can be nice to have. You still get the feed dogs and everything, but that center guide is so useful. You could almost just keep it on your machine all the time. I mean, it is almost that way. Obviously, it's not the best for there are reasons you want an open toe foot sometimes, and etc. But man, that foot. It's great. And the guide will be springy often.
Yes, it is.
So that it doesn't create a barrier. It really, will just rest upon the fabric and be very nice. One thing I did that was a lot of fun, I made one of those ottomans, one of those
Right, like
Amy
a big
Butler
puffy
big
pillow,
poof
yeah,
things,
right.
And
it has 8 or 16
yeah,
sections or whatever.
This one was 6.
Yeah.
So I did lots of things. I put embroidery on every other petal of the ottoman, and then I did the star stitch,
Right.
I did that going down the ditch. And
Right.
so I was stitching in the ditch, but I wasn't stitching in the ditch with a straight stitch. I was
Right.
stitching in the ditch with a fun decorative stitch, and it kind of added a little bit of interest. So I'd highly recommend. This is 1 foot. It doesn't come with the machines. The machine companies are very smart. They know you'll want it. So it's definitely going to be, an add-on for you. But it's a foot that if you're buying a sewing machine and if you're getting serious about sewing, I wouldn't leave your sewing
It's
store
just
without
worth it.
Absolutely.
Right. And it's not the same as your
A Blindhem foot. It's not a
no matter what
Blindhem
somebody
foot.
will tell you.
And we're not even going to talk about the Blindhem foot in the second half of this podcast, so as to avoid confusion. We'll talk about it 3 podcasts from now or something, okay?
I'm pretty sure that if anybody anybody could come to me and say, why would I buy this foot? It's the same as my other foot. I can convince you that it is not.
Absolutely. No, each foot almost, yeah.
Definitely has its own
Yeah,
function
absolutely.
and not function, but a functionality that makes it easier for you, saves you time, and gives you a nicer finished product.
Well, let's take a little break and then come back and talk about another foot.
All right. Hey, Mal.
Hey, Mom.
I heard you were easy.
Oh, no.
What does that mean?
No, it means I think what you really heard was, wow, Mallory, your easy tee looks so good on you.
Oh,
Yes.
I should have known that it was
You're-
something about something you made.
Like you said, you're getting into your golden years. Sometimes, mishearing things. It happens.
No, you're
right?
the one that mishears things. I know this. You make lapel pins about it.
Okay, so I am currently wearing an Easy Tee, and I wear them all the time. The Easy Tee is a semi-fitted, short-sleeve T-shirt made out of a woven fabric, and you draft the Easy Tee to fit your measurements by taking the Easy Tee class.
Well, how do I take this class?
It's an online class that you can watch anytime on SewHere.com. To purchase the class, go to SewHere.com/EasyT. That's just EASYT.
Is this on my computer?
It's on your computer. It's on your phone. It's on your iPad. The class is divided up into short, easily consumable segments, some of which you may not ever need to watch ever again, but some of which you might want to revisit. So you have the ability to mark lessons as completed and also to star lessons so you can go back and revisit the ones that are most important to you.
And I can vouch, Mallory's Easy Tee is a lot easier than Mallory is.
Once again, go to SewHere.com/EasyT to begin your pattern drafting journey. Sewing out loud. Well, welcome back to the show. With this second half of the podcast, we're going to talk about open toe feet. And yeah, feet have toes.
Right.
And they most certainly do. They got ankles and toes and heels and corns and bunions and all sorts of stuff. So casts. Anyway, broken foot. I don't know. But Mom, talk about open toe foot. Get the conversation started.
An open toe foot in the old days. When I say the old days, I'm talking 25 years ago or more. They didn't come with your machine. It was usually an add-on type.
Did you have to cut open a closed? No.
Actually, that's been done too.
That's been done too.
Open toe sort of came into fashion when we started having the decorative stitches and the zigzag stitches.
And the applique. And,
Right,
yeah.
things like that.
Mhm.
And it's all about being able to visualize.
Absolutely.
And you want to be able to visualize what you're sewing while you're sewing. I used to not sell a machine without, that was like, you want to buy this foot. Believe me, you want to buy, if you don't buy this foot, you will be unhappy. And then I would, one of my basic classes I used to teach, that was beyond just a standard guide class, was basic applique. And you need that open-toed foot. You've got to be able to visualize, where things are laying, where things meet, where one piece of fabric meets the other piece of fabric, and where you're laying down those stitches. So open-toed is just, it needs to be in the toolbox. It needs to be there.
Another thing about open toe is I want to talk about the bottom of the foot. I think
Right.
it's almost a universal truth that if you get an open toe foot, they think you're going to be using it for decorative stitching or
Absolutely.
applique. And so
Absolutely.
the bottom of the foot is going to have a more of a groove, a higher lift where the stitching...
It has a groove to allow
Yeah,
the stitching to
allow those
pass
stitches to
underneath.
pass through.
Right.
So let's just say
A
that.
buildup of stitches.
It's
to pass
another
underneath.
reason to get this foot
Right.
for applique and decorative stitching.
When you said applique, I've seen it referred to as open-toed applique foot.
Yeah, you're right.
Right,
You're right.
right.
Some of the open toe feet, there are different open toe feet. Footses. There are plastic open toe feet and metal open toe feet, and sometimes these different open toe feet will have guides on them. They'll have little red hash marks at like the halfway mark or the quarter-inch mark or da-da-da-da. And, in my opinion, the more little marky poos you can put on my feet, the better.
Right.
I like
there
them
are
all.
walking feet that actually have an open-toed foot that you can put on, or your closed foot, whatever.
Yeah.
And there are reasons to have an open and reasons to have a closed. And the more foot you have that's closed, the more stable any stitch is going to be.
The more stability you're going to have. Absolutely.
But I'm still not going to be able to visualize what I'm doing if I have a closed-toed foot. Some people will take a plastic closed-toed foot and feel that they have more visualization of what they're doing with that. So, clear plastic. And that is true. For me, I have tended not to like them because they distort.
Yeah.
The plastic it's not like, it's good optical plastic I'm looking through.
No, I agree. Because it's such a small piece of plastic. It's so small that you almost kind of can't see through it. And I wanted to bring up, we talked about maybe not bringing this up, but I wanted to bring up free motion feet. You can have an open toe free motion foot, or you can have a plastic closed-toed free motion foot, and I kind of not so into that plastic closed-toed free motion foot, for me, because you really can't necessarily see what you're doing.
And there's issues with even open-toed free motion feet where they can catch if you're on a certain type of fabric. So then you want to close.
Then you do want a closed-toed, yeah.
So you have to think about all of these things, but there's an absolute place for an open-toed applique foot or sewing foot, as we call it. There's no reason not to have one. You'll use it if you take a class and you ask a teacher, what would I use this for? If she doesn't come up with any good reasons, maybe you should have a different teacher.
Yeah.
But there are absolutely so many reasons to use it.
One reason I can think of is when you're doing the decorative stitching, it's not just to see where you're laying it down. Like, okay, great. It's going in the blue part of my fabric or something. But maybe you want to see, okay, am I getting to the flower part of the stitch, or am I on the leaf part of my decorative stitch? You can really, that's a big reason. Because honestly, for applique and stuff, I've sometimes found myself using the edge joining foot, for the zigzag capability even. But when you want to see what your stitch is doing, or you're stitching out lettering with your sewing part of your sewing machine, I like to be able to see where I am in the stitch in case you don't have a screen that does that for you.
The other thing that I use my open-toed for is couching. And if no one understands the term couching, it is when you actually are applying something to fabric. So like a cording or sequins or, something that's in a string, so to speak. And there are couching feet, and I have them all.
They're like,
and I love them all.
I don't know how we're going to break that up.
right. I love them all. But there is sometimes I will come up with a trim or a cord or something where I need to use that open-toed foot in order to couch. And it allows me, the ability to visualize where I'm laying down that cording.
I just want to bring up a specific open-toed foot that I used recently that I really loved, and it was for couching, actually. Baby Lock has a candlewicking foot, and candlewicking, by hand, or it's like it's kind of a buildup of stitches, and it's a bump,
Yeah, it's bumpy.
And so this foot has a particularly high rise to allow those stitches to go through. And what I was doing was stitching trim onto a jacket, stitching just some braid onto a jacket. And the couching feet we're talking about, oftentimes they're like made to run cording through, or they're made to run pearls through. But I didn't need that.
Or they have a certain size channel.
Size channel. Yeah, they have a channel for that couching to keep your cording, keep your pearls, tame. I didn't need that. I just needed a big old width because I wanted a big old zigzag to stitch this down. And I needed space underneath the foot to allow that braid, that trim to run right under my foot. And that candlewicking foot was really nice. And it had a little center red mark on the back that was good. But it's another iteration of the open toe foot that I liked.
I've never met a foot I didn't like.
You're like the Will Rogers of
That's
sewing.
right, and the Will Rogers
The
of
Wilma
sewing
Rogers
foot.
of sewing.
And
It's
just
you're certainly not Will
the other
Rogers
thing,
because
too, is-
Mom has met some men she did not like.
That was
This
pretty
is why
funny.
we
That was
sew.
pre- that was
This is why
pretty
we
funny.
sew because we like the feet, not the people.
That's why I live with my dog. No, I don't. My husband doesn't listen to these, so I don't have to worry about
there
that.
you go.
But I locked the dog in the car one time for like 12 hours and didn't realize it. And I went to let her out, and she got out, and she was wagging her tail and all happy to see me. And I'm pretty sure if I locked him in the car for 12 hours, he would not have reacted like that when I went to get
Just
him.
to clarify,
Just to clarify.
she thought that someone else had let the dog out. Someone else was supposed
dog
to do
was
that.
fine.
It was not that. We don't.
And I
need-
thought the dog was out because I saw the neighbor's dog, and I thought it was our dog.
Yeah. No, Mom's not an animal cruelty.
No
practicer.
animal was hurt in the production of this podcast.
That's right.
But no, I've never met a foot that I didn't like. Honestly, I love the sewing tools.
All right. Well, thanks for listening to the podcast. Look out for more of these feet podcasts. We'll try to get through all the feet. All the feet.
Impossible.
Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Sewing Out Loud. For even more expert sewing advice, visit sewhere.com.